We're going to look at cotangent graphs. So cotangent graphs are similar to how we're going to do it the same way that we did our tangent graphs. There's a difference in how the parent graph is. So first of all, instead of being between negative pi halves and pi halves, your cotangent goes between 0 and pi. Okay. Also, a cotangent graph, the parent graph, notice, looks like a negative x cubed or a negative tangent. So a negative tangent looks like the same thing as a cotangent, and a negative cotangent looks like the same thing as a tangent. Okay. Notice that the period is still pi divided by b. Okay. So here I can take this value. I can take the 2x plus pi. Oh, I forgot something. Maybe I didn't. It starts at 0. So instead of straddling, you're going from 0 to pi. So instead of straddling the y-axis, you start at 0 and go to pi. Okay. So that's another difference with cotangent. So I'm going to set this in between 0 and pi. Okay. So I'm using my order of operations going backwards, so I need to get rid of add, subtract first. So I'm going to subtract the pi off. So then I'm going to move up here. That gives us negative pi is less than 2x is less than 0. Excuse me. So I got rid of the add, subtract, so now I need to get rid of multiplying by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. So I have negative pi halves is less than x is less than 0. Okay. So that's my new set of asymptotes that takes into consideration both my shift, or my horizontal shift or phase shift, as well as the change in the period. Okay. So we're going to go over by pi halves. So we've got 3 tick marks that we need to do. And then that's where my first asymptote is. And then our last asymptote is at 0. Not last, but the furthest to the right one that we're caring about. Okay. And then again, I'm going to split this into 4 different sections. So I'm going to take this amount and cut it in half. And then I'm going to take this first half and cut it in half. And then I'm going to take this second half and cut it in half. Okay. Again, 5 tick marks, 2 being the first asymptote and the last asymptote, and then you've got your 3 tick marks here. Okay. Same kind of idea where this still shifts it vertically in the direction of the sign from your point of inflection. So we're going to go down by 1. So down here is going to be my starting value. And then it's a cotangent, so a cotangent looks like a negative x cubed. So then the a value is 1. So we're going to go over a tick mark and down a half. So that'll put me here. I forgot it was on green. And then we're going to go left a tick mark and then up a half. So I was down at 1. Yeah. So then like right there. I'm going to have something that looks like that for our cotangent graph. Again, it's cyclical, so it repeats itself. So I'd have another graph, and another graph, and another graph, and another graph, those kinds of things. I only care about one period, so you don't need to graph multiple ones. Okay. So if we look at this one, I can set the x plus pi force in between 0 and pi. Okay, so here I'm going to subtract pi force. I get negative pi force is less than x is less than, and then if we do pi minus pi force, that gives us 3 pi force. So I'm starting at negative pi force, which in this case is 1.5 tick marks. And then we're going to 3 pi force, which would be halfway between pi halves and pi. So 1.5 tick marks in between those two. So to here. And that's our 3 pi force. Okay. So I'm going to take this distance visually and I'm going to cut it in half. The other way that you can do is you count how many tick marks. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half. So we did 6. So if we want to cut that into 4 different sections, it'd be 6 divided by 4, which gives us 3 halves. So we're going 1.5 each time. So I could do, here's my half, here's my 1. So my next tick mark will be here. And then from here, I'm going to go 1.5. So my next tick mark will be here. And then I'm going to go half and then 1, and then that's my next tick mark. And then we've got 1.5, and then there's our asymptote. So that's another way you could look at finding those tick marks. Okay. So we've not got a vertical shift. I have nothing shifted up or down. So I'm going to go to my middle tick mark, and then I don't need to move it up or down at all. So I'm just going to keep it right there. And then a negative cotangent looks like a positive x cubed. So it's going to come this direction. So we're going to go to the right to the next tick mark and then up by the amplitude. So, or not the amplitude, the a value. So we're going to go right and up 1. And then we're going to go left a tick mark and then down by the a value, which is 1. So then that becomes our graph for cotangent. So very similar to how we graph tangent, you just need to remember that the asymptotes are in a different spot and that the parent graph looks like a negative x cubed for cotangent and the parent graph looks like a positive x cubed for tangent.